Hey, what is going on, you guys? My name is Canon, the host of Barbell Radio. Thank you for coming back onto the show. So this is episode 15 of the podcast. I welcome Kris LeGier onto the show. She is a personal trainer and a group fitness instructor on the military base in Yokosuka, Japan. And we go through a few topics. She explains her own journey of how she got into fitness and where she is now. We also discuss women in fitness. And we end the talk with some, motivation tips as well. It's just funny. I would just like to apologize because right before I started recording the interview, I asked her how I pronounce her name, Kris LeGier. And I'm like, okay, Kris LeGier, gotcha. I start the recording and then I pretty much just say, oh, this is Kris LeGier. Or something that's completely wrong. So apologies to Kris for that. As you can tell, I'm not really there sometimes. Anyways, I actually learned a lot from her, so I hope you do too. So without further ado, let's get into the show. Let's go! Barbell Radio. Okay, so today I have Kristina LeGier. Sorry for saying on the line. So I have been following you on social media for quite some time now, and I'm really happy that you're making the time to be on the show. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Awesome. And we are both fellow Yokosuka residents, and I know you're doing a lot of great things in the US military base in regards to education and coaching and stuff like that. And maybe for those that are not aware of who you are and what you do, can you maybe give some insights to the listeners on what kind of things you are involved in and maybe what got you to where you are now?
Yeah. Okay. So my name is Kris LeGier, and I am a personal trainer and group fitness instructor and powerlifting coach here on Yokosuka Naval Base. And what got me started into fitness was just sort of my own journey. I am such a nerd when it comes to learning about the mind and the body. So this is just a product of me doing my own research about myself and trying new things. So I'm such a monkey and I love doing all kinds of things. So not just powerlifting, but I love doing Spartan races. I love doing strongman competitions. So anything that has to do with some kind of physical activity event, I'm always there. And regardless if I suck or not, because I am so not a runner, but I will do the things that have running in it.
Wow.
Which sometimes I'll regret halfway in, but it's still fun.
No, that's really awesome. So were you involved in any other sports before you became a personal trainer or group fitness instructor?
Yes. In high school, I wrestled and did track and cross country. What else? I did a taekwondo and karate when I was younger.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
I never, I would always move around a lot. So not only am I a Navy wife, but I was also a Navy brat. And so I would just move around a lot and never really got to finish. Every time I started a new sport, the wrestling, track and cross country, that was in high school. But for the martial arts, every time I had to move, I would just not want to join again. So I think for taekwondo, what did I end at? I don't even know what belt. Maybe green. So that wasn't finished. But I just dabbled in a few of martial arts stuff. But yeah, I really like that. I recently got into powerlifting because it reminded me so much about wrestling because we wear singlets.
Yeah.
and sometimes wear wrestling shoes.
Yeah. So. No, that's really
always
cool.
Fun.
Because I stalked you a little bit and I see that you have a bachelor's degree in psychology, right?
Yes, that's correct.
So like, how did you turn that into what you're doing now? Like, did your interest change during that time, or did you want to use your knowledge of psychology into what you're doing right now?
That is a good question. So I originally wanted to work with, I wanted to work in a mental asylum.
Okay.
Back in the day, I was just really into mental disorders and learning about them. And the school I actually went to was an asylum years ago. So I was just really into all that. And also one of my teachers at the time was a clinical psychologist outside of being a professor. So she really inspired me. But my interest it kind of changed. Like, I still really love psychology, and I apply a lot of that right now into my coaching and into my teaching with fitness and strength and stuff like that. Because it is like, it can get super psychological sometimes, right? Especially if you're not hitting PRs, or if you're plateauing, it can be like, you can take it real personal. But what got me to kind of change a little bit is I started just learning more about anatomy and physiology and all that. And so anything that had to do with the body.
Right. And
it started with my class on, what was it? It's basically neurobiopsychology, like just learning about your brain and psychology and stuff, but like the physical features of that. And then that led me into more anatomy and physio. And then I started learning like what the body does. And then that kind of amped up my fitness. So I was going to the gym, but my gym looked like, like circuits going around, like, all right, some of this, some of that.
Yeah.
And then like off the Stairmaster like forever. So I didn't really know what I was doing when I was working out at the time. And then I just got really into it, and I started joining like boot camps. I started getting my own personal trainers and just learning more about it. And so for me, I'm the kind of person that, like, if I see someone that is so cool, like I want to be just like them.
That's really cool.
I surrounded myself with a lot of people that I looked up to. So a lot of personal trainers. I think my personal trainer at the time, I don't know what they're called, but they're basically the people like aerialists, right? The people that like, is it ribbons? Or I don't know, like they fly around, like their acrobatics.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So my personal trainer at that time, she did that like outside of training. And I just thought she was so freaking cool. Like anytime she had to, you know what a TRX is? Like the no.
I don't know. Yeah.
So TRX is like, it's like the long thing that hangs and there's handles and you get to like do rows or any kind of exercise on it. Anyways, it's just straps that come down. And during class, every time she had to like put it up back onto the bars, she would just pull herself up with one hand as she would be adjusting. And I'm just like, oh my God, you're so freaking cool.
That's really cool. Yeah. And it's just like, it just amazes me how you're really involved in a lot of things. Like, you're not just focused on what you're doing now. You're like interested in a lot of fields and stuff like that, right? Like, I think that's really, really cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I don't know. I just like to learn. And in fact, when I graduated with my psychology, my graduation cap, I put never stop learning on it, and that's literally the mantra or the motto I've been like saying since then, and that was like 4 years ago.
No, it's definitely a good motto. So like, I know that you have a lot of knowledge when it comes to training, especially such as like strength training and functional training. But I love to like narrow it down to one topic today, which will be centered around like women and fitness. And hopefully I can get your opinion on how women can incorporate various types of training and maybe some motivational tips as well. So does that sound okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Awesome. So just like a starter question, on maybe some of your personal opinion. So people have been like getting into exercising more women are involved in sports, and a good example of this is like we see in like, you know, physiques exhibition for women, like bikini competitions, and women are getting more into CrossFit or powerlifting and competitive strength sports like that. As a coach or someone who gives coaching advice to women, do you see like a trend in the change of desired body composition throughout the generation?
I think, it is generational. And also, I mean, bodybuilding has been around for years, right? So it's not a new thing, but it is becoming more popular. And I think that has a great deal to do with social media. You know, like we're now consuming more than ever. So we're discovering new sports and stuff like that. And that's actually how I discovered powerlifting, to be honest. Like I had no idea what powerlifting was until I saw it on Instagram, and I was like, oh shit, I want to do that. But I think that nowadays there are more people in the world who are just like me, who want to like get shit out there. Sorry, I don't know if you can swear.
No, it's fine.
And so because of that, it's kind of like a multiplier effect, right? Because there's so many people just trying to inspire and help. And I feel like the fitness industry, like in terms of coaches and trainers, are getting huge too, especially because of social media. So it's kind of like everyone is just opening up the world for everyone. And so because of it, and that's what I've been trying to do also here, is because when I came here, I was searching for, all right, where's the powerlifting club? Like, you know, like where are we at? And there was actually like nothing out here. So for me, that's why I'm so involved here, is because I'm just trying to open the doors to all this opportunity that people didn't know existed. Like a lot of my students didn't know that they could feel strong. Like, you know what I mean? They didn't know that there was this whole thing. They thought like the barbell was just for men or just for, you know, things like that. But I think that now more people are starting to learn what strength is, and maybe I know we're talking about body composition, but
just even the mindset is fine.
Like a lot of people didn't know that they don't have to look a certain way, that they can instead be strong, right? So I think it's just nowadays opening the doors, and a lot of people helping to spread that.
It's really cool that social media is actually doing this, is, you know, a contributing factor to this. And you just mentioned like, you know, maybe people are scared that, you know, to start strength training because barbells are just for men, you know, but maybe people still do have this kind of mindset. And maybe for those who do you think, because I know a lot of people come up to me and be like, I'm kind of scared to start lifting because I don't want to put on muscle and I don't want to look bulky, and, you know, I don't want to look like the bodybuilding women out there on the internet, like and they don't want to lose their feminine figure, right? So like, do you think like this is true, that if you do resistance training that you will end up being like a bodybuilder on the internet or something like that?
I feel like, I mean, that's a huge myth, and I know that us who are in the industry, or at least like athletes in it, know that, because you have to try really hard to get that bulk. It goes both ways. Like to drop your body fat down, that's hard. So to gain muscle and be bulky, that's just as hard. You know what I mean? You have to, and it's really just about like calories in versus out. Like to drop your body fat, you need to be in low calories. To up that muscle, you have to be in high calories. And I'm talking like massive intake of calories. So it's hard. And I think I'm like living proof of that, because I lift, but like, am I bulky? No, I'm like pretty small actually. So a lot of people think that, but it requires more work. It's not just going to happen overnight. Like, So that's the part that people don't get. And the females that do look masculine or a little bit more bulky, like they've been doing this for years, and perhaps like that's their goal. You know what I mean? It really depends on your goal. So for those people who think that, I would say like, okay, how quick can you drop body fat? All right, well, that's how quick you can gain that muscle, right? So it's hard and it's going to take time. So
definitely. And also, what about you? Like, did you have this kind of mindset when you started training, or?
No, actually, I've always wanted to be bigger than I would feel insecure about being too small when I was younger. Like, I'm the kind of person that likes to, I don't know, prove people wrong or just be like tough, like, yeah. And so, I think like when I started working out, I just didn't want anyone to help me. Like, you know, women, like when we're doing stuff or trying to lift something and people will be like, oh, do you need help?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I hated that. I still hate that. But like, so that was kind of my driver when I first started working out. I say working out, I don't say training because I don't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was doing. So when I first started working out, that was kind of the goal. I didn't want anyone to help me. I wanted to be so for me, I've always wanted to be bigger. And I actually haven't intentionally worked toward massing in my life, actually. So it's not really a priority for me nowadays. It's not really a priority. So I haven't really experienced hypertrophy training or things like that, like myself. So yeah.
And what does it mean, maybe for those who don't know, like what does it mean by when you say massing? Like hypertrophy training?
So building size, making your muscles bigger, look bigger. Yeah. And because muscles feed, right? So that's really all the reason why you're eating. You got to feed your muscles. If you don't feed your muscles, they're not going to grow. And that's why you have to eat so much. So for I guess because we're staying on women, the topic of women and all that, for my students who like say want to grow a booty, right? So that's a very common thing. Well, you got to eat. So I have a lot of students who want shredded abs and a big booty. And I always say, okay, well, you gotta focus on one thing first. They're going to require different caloric prescriptions, you know? So it's like, you can't, you can have both eventually. You just need to work on one at a time and then maybe alternate, you know? So, yeah.
So you do get that a lot with your clients. Like, I want a bigger booty.
Yeah, that's a very common one. Yeah, shredded abs and a big booty. Everybody wants that.
Oh, I love it.
I'm not going to lie. I want that too. Yeah, sure.
Me too. But yeah, it's all about patience and stuff like that. It doesn't happen overnight, definitely.
No.
And I don't know, just with my experience, I was definitely scared of getting bulky at the start. And I did start training. And even when I did start training, like I would see myself in the mirror and I'll put muscle on and I'd be like, oh, I'm getting muscle. I want to get bigger, like kind of thing. Like I see the shift in that kind of like thought process. And I don't know, I just thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, it gets addicting. Because I definitely feel like that too. So for me, it's like, I don't know, people think, I mean, sure, I want to build like my butt, sure. But then I think my most favorite body part to build are like my shoulders. I love when my arms are jacked. Like, I don't know about any other women, like I'm not manly. Look, I don't think I look manly, but I love when my arms are jacked. Like that's the best pump. That's my favorite pump. So
awesome.
I don't know about you guys.
No, I definitely do really like to work on my shoulders because, you know, like having good shoulders make your whole physique look good and stuff like that. So for those maybe that are still scared that lifting weights make them look bulky, like what modes or frequencies or duration of exercise would you recommend for ladies out there who just wants to be toned, quote unquote toned?
I think it will number one, depend on the person and their experience, right? So when it comes to newer lifters or inexperienced lifters, they're obviously going to grow quicker or PR quicker, right? Versus like an experienced lifter or a person that has been doing it for years, right? So number one, it depends on their experience. And then number two, it depends on their recovery. So I'm not going to provide 5 days to a person who is not recovering well. You know, it just doesn't make sense. And it's doing more damage than it is good, because what people don't understand is where the gains happen is not in your training. It happens in your recovery, right? It happens in that rebuild. So if you don't allow your body to rebuild, it's not going to grow toward your gains or your goals.
Yeah, definitely. It's not a one thing fits all type of thing, right?
Yeah. And there are a lot of people that do well with just 3 days. There are a lot of people that can handle 5 days, you know, so it really just depends.
Yeah, for sure. But let's just say like a woman has started going to the gym, or maybe planning on going to the gym. And I know when I first started training or going to the gym, the first thing I did was, or the only thing I did was pretty much like go on the treadmill. Like that was me as well. And or going on the bike or whatever. And I know that a lot of women can relate to this. I don't know if it's with your clients, but I know that a lot of women can. And I also believe that I was like kind of scared about like men doing resistance training, and I just didn't see anything other than cardio. And maybe for those who are in this situation, and you know, obviously you being like a strength athlete and me being a strength athlete, like what are some reasons why you should incorporate resistance training or even, you know, start strength training?
Yeah, so I'm going to touch real quick on why that is, why women tend to go for the easy, safe route. And a lot of the times, and what I notice with my students is because they don't know how to use, they're not educated with the equipment.
Right.
And obviously when you don't know how to use something, you don't want to embarrass yourself and attempt to do it. So a lot of the times it's that insecurity or that lack of confidence that leaves women like just staying in the cardio room or just doing something easy. Like, okay, a bike is easy to get onto. It's way more easy than, you know, adjusting the barbell to your height, adjusting your safeties, you know, making sure that you don't drop it or create a scene, because like that, I think that they are imagining the worst case scenario. And so they just lean toward the easy route. Yeah,
because you think that everybody is looking at you while you're training.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily like that, right? Like no one is actually looking at.
No, it's not. And I want to bring a study that my friends did when we were in school. So when we were in school, everyone had to make up this research project, and then we ran it on each other. And so one of my friends' projects were so they basically were sitting in a class wearing a certain color shirt. And then this person got up multiple times and changed their shirt. And then the research team surveyed the class and asked them how many times did this person change their shirt, and no one, like hardly anyone noticed, because everyone was so focused on them. Like everyone's worried about how they look like themselves. So no one's going to be looking at you at the gym, because everyone's too focused on themselves, either like their own insecurities or they're just in the zone with their workout. So.
Yeah, definitely. That is something that a lot of people need to hear, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry to.
No, it's okay. But the real question, what was it? Okay, strength training, right?
Yeah.
That's where we're getting off. Why women should go into resistance and strength training. So all my students, they range in ages. I have someone as young as 23, and then I've helped someone as old as 60. So
wow.
And in that range, all of them at some point in their training have touched a barbell. And And with that being said, like including their range in ages, they also vary in occupation. Some have kids, some don't. And they also vary in medical history. So what you can see is that they are all walks of life, and yet they have somehow benefited from lifting a barbell because it is so functional. It is beneficial. Like you can have someone do a body weight squat and not see any imbalances, but if you put a barbell on their back, you can immediately reveal where they're lacking. Right? Like where their strengths lie, where their tightnesses lie.
Right.
So you're not going to figure that out if you don't touch a barbell. And if you're just doing body weight training all the time, I mean, body weight training is great. Like I think everyone should be strong with their own body weight and all of that. But to be able to learn how to use a barbell will just, I think, optimize your daily performance. So daily performance as in your daily life. So especially if you have children, you want to keep up with them. So a few of my students' goals are keeping up with their children, not being tired throughout the day, being able to lift and carry just anything like groceries, moving. So a lot of them, they have seen benefits, not really like, well, they see benefits in the gym, but they see more benefits in their daily functioning lives where they're not even training. So I think it's just a good overall, the more you move, it's kind of like a vicious cycle, a positive vicious cycle. Like the more you move, the better you eat, the better you sleep, the better you sleep, the better you feel. Like it's just this cycle that keeps going, and a lot of people feel very empowered. And there's something about that that phase where they go from not being comfortable with a barbell and then learning the barbell and then feeling unstoppable and powerful afterward, right? I think it's similar to the concept of cold showers. You know how when you take like a cold shower and it just like you become just more resilient, or you feel more resilient because you've acquired this stressor, this acute stressor that makes you a little bit more resilient, right? So I think it's the same effects when you learn how to lift heavy. It just gives you, I think it just empowers you overall.
Yeah, for sure. No, I think you made some really, really good points. So like by adding a weight or barbell to your back, maybe you're able to learn something new about your body, like what muscles are weak, what muscles are imbalanced. And that's something that you definitely cannot, learn completely from, doing bodyweight stuff, And also, like, definitely you did bring up a good reason for the psychological effect as well, because, we thrive on, like, a new stimulus, like humans. So I think it's great. And that's why I also love doing, like, powerlifting as well. Yeah. So very, very good points, I think.
Yeah. And then, which brings me, I want to talk about, like, my shift in goals, because I just want to share this for people who might be experiencing the same thing. But before powerlifting, I focused heavily on how I looked, and now looking back, and I see how my body was when I thought a certain way, I'm just like, whoa, I was so skinny. What was I worried about?
Yeah.
And I looked like unhealthily skinny. So. But at the time, all I wanted to do was like be shredded, and it's, I didn't realize how that looked. So sometimes there's like this distorted body image that a lot of women have, right? And when I started powerlifting, I found a new goal that I didn't know existed. I didn't know that there was something else other than looking a certain way. I didn't know that I could feel a certain way, which is strong. And so when I found that new goal of strength instead of aesthetic, that just my mentality, like I was in a dark place regardless of how good I thought I looked, right? And that's, I know a lot of people can relate, because nowadays social media, all you see are the highlights, right? All you see are the shredded ab pictures, but you don't see what's going on in their mind. You don't see how dark it is in their mind, how lonely and things like that. So that's how it was for me. And then when I started powerlifting, it kind of just just gave me new understanding, I guess you could say, and just more acceptance of myself.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe the good, effects that you are feeling. So for you to be more confident, do you think it came from the fact that you stopped caring? I mean, you cared less on what you look like. Do you think that was the shift in what made you feel good when you started powerlifting?
I think so. For me, like you were talking about new stimulus, right? So for me at the time when I found strength, I was like, whoa, like who knew about this new drug, right?
Yeah.
called powerlifting. So for me, that was kind of like my kryptonite at the time. And that was the drug that was feeding me. And I think because of that, I shifted away from how I looked. So I didn't necessarily intentionally shift away from how I looked. It just came with the finding the goal of strength, and which I loved better because I just cleared up my mentality like that. So, and I think that goes like just overall, right? Because when we think we can control everything, right, on the inside, that's where we get disappointed. But when we are more open and open to receiving guidance, or more open to uncertainty, I should say, right? Because that's really what the strength training is. It's uncertain. Like you don't know, even though sure you're going to have a program that kind of estimates where you're going to be in a few weeks, like you really don't know, because you don't know if you're going to get injured. You don't know if you're going to somehow magically recover well and eat well and like gain 100 pounds on your bench. Like you don't really know what's going to happen, even though it's written down. And I think that just that openness to uncertainty and being okay with not knowing is what the shift is really about.
Right. No, I think that would be really helpful for a lot of listeners. So but I don't know, like people might not be as challenging, because you are like, you love challenges and you love learning new things. Right. But maybe people aren't as maybe confident with themselves to start strength training and stuff like that. Like maybe because we are all consuming social media and we do have like this mindset. What is like a tip? I know this is not in the questions, but what is like a tip for you to like break away from that mindset that everything is like you always feel self-conscious? Whatever you do, you feel really like not confident within yourself. Like I know that's one tip that you just said, and what are some other things that maybe I know exactly what you're saying. I think I'll share a personal experience that I went through. So, and I did this unintentionally. I was just like, F it. And I just went. And what I did was I started reaching out to people. Like I just literally, if I didn't know them, I would just reach out. And that's actually how I found my first powerlifting coach. Is I just reached out to her and I was like, hey, like, what is this? Can you teach me? So I think people just have to, number one, just get brave in asking for help, because there's no wrong in that. And you will be surprised who is going to respond to you. And I think that obviously nowadays there are a lot of like social media famous people that I'm sure have a lot of messages coming in. So they're probably not going to reply to you, but still you'll be surprised with the people who have large followings and do reply to you. So I would just start by like reaching out for help, and the people that respond to you are meant for you. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how I've been finding the mentors in my life, like the people. So till this day, I have so many people that I ask questions on Instagram. I'm like, hey, like if I see another coach and they're doing
some kind of lift variation and I want to know more about why they're making them do that, then I will straight ask them, be like, hey, like this looks really interesting. Like what kind of athlete would you give this for? Or what is your purpose with this lift variation? So I think you just have to do your own research and like grab what you can. And
a lot of these coaches are willing to help, right?
Yes. Yeah. There are so many, and including me, I'm always like putting that out there, like ask me questions, guys, like whatever you need, like, because you're not gonna learn properly if you don't seek help. So that's one thing that I always say in my live classes. I always say, like, ask me for help, because if you're doing this wrong, if you're in pain, how am I going to help you? You're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to grow. You're not going to make gains if you don't speak up.
Right.
So I think that's number one, is just speaking up. And this goes for any relationship. So let's say you're in a relationship with your boyfriend or girlfriend and like you're not getting anything out of it. Are you just going to stay quiet? Right? So,
communication.
Yeah, communicate.
Definitely, for sure. So to reach out to people, and also just to bring up the conversation back a little bit, you know how you said that maybe people stay on the treadmill because they don't know what to do, like other than that, you know, like what are some maybe platforms or websites that people can go into to look up basic information about what strength training or machine training that they could do? Do you have any in mind? Like, how did you start? Were you like looking at people around you and then like tried to copy them, or because I knew I was always on my phone and looking at like bodybuilding.com and looking at them.
For me, I'm sure other physical therapy students can relate, but for me, where I gained the most, I guess, form and technique education was working in the physical therapy clinic. And even though so the clinic population that I was in were more like geriatrics, so like older people, injuries, people with like Parkinson's. So it was a different population, obviously, but the cues were all the same, like posterior pelvic tilt, bracing your core 360, squeezing your shoulder blades back and down. Like all those cues were translatable into the lifting world. So I feel like when I would work there, my lifting got better. And so for me, that's how I learned. But in terms of finding, it's crazy because, like you said, with mobility, like it's so overwhelming. There's so much out there.
Yeah, there is.
And the main thing that filters out my content on my feed and who I choose to follow is if I see like a famous fitness person or whatever, and they're doing an exercise and their back is super anteriorly tilted, like I will not follow you. You know what I mean? I'm just oh my gosh, why are you doing an exercise like this? And how do you have so many followers? Like, so for me, I always look at like their form first, and then I see like how accredited they are, like if they're a physical therapist or a student or something like that. So I will most likely follow doctors and students, but also like people with really good form. Like if you have bad form and you're a coach, I'm not going to follow you.
For sure. No, it's definitely important to filter out people, because nowadays like anyone can claim as being a trainer, you know. And you really need to differentiate like who to trust, because that could, like, if you trust the wrong people, that could definitely lead you to like injuries and stuff like that. So it's hard like that, because there's so much out there and there's so much talking at us that we don't know what to take in, you know?
Right. I will give a takeaway for anyone who's listening. I guess my favorite, let's see. Let me think of a few. I can only think of one at the top of my head because she's my all-time favorite. But my all-time favorite Instagram, I think she also has YouTube videos, but her account is at DocGenFit, and she's a physical therapist somewhere in LA, in Los Angeles, California. And a lot of her teachings, so she she lifts sometimes, but mostly she does like body weight hits. She does a lot of acrobatics. She does a lot of handstands, and a lot of like functional mobility, functional training as well. A lot of rehab exercises is what you'll find on her Instagram. But she is, I guess, most closely to how I teach and what I believe in. And she also like incorporates breath work. And that's also another topic is like breath work. You'd be surprised how important your breath and that oxygen, carbon dioxide distribution is. But anyways, this is a tangent. So she is, I think, probably one of the best people to follow if you want to learn proper form. If you want to learn proper form and just like everything else that I talked about.
You've been doing like a lot of handstand stuff as well, right? Does that come from her as well?
No, it actually didn't. Why did I start doing this? I don't know. It just kind of like came off a whim.
Like you're doing handstand, like headstands and all that. It's, no idea.
Yeah, telling you, I'm a monkey. I just love anything physical. I would just do it.
Okay.
Handstands came from, I don't know. It didn't really come from anywhere. I was just like, I wonder if I could do this. And then I did it. So that's kind of how that came from. And then I actually sought out, see, you got to seek out instructors and education people. I actually sought out a yoga instructor here who was doing one-on-ones. And so she usually does one-on-ones like yoga flows and stuff like that. But I asked her, I was like, hey, can you teach me how to handstand? Because she is amazing at hand balancing and she can do all kinds of tricks and all that. So I actually reached out to her and she kind of helped me improve all that. Yeah. So coaches need coaches too. So that's one thing that I always preach is that if you have a coach and they're not either researching or having their own coach, like, you know what I mean? I think really good coaches are the coaches that continue to seek education.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. And you do exactly just that. And so maybe like the takeaway overall is just like the starting is always hard, right? Like getting into the gym or like asking for help is probably like the most, you know, the biggest hurdle of it all. But just like for you to, you know, even if you want to ask like advice from other influencers or something, it's always important to just go for it and you know, just ask for help or just go into the gym or just try a new sport or something like that and see where that leads you. Maybe that could be like the take home message.
Yeah, I think you just what is that quote? Let's see. I can't remember the quote exactly, but basically, anytime you feel discomfort, that's the direction you have to go into because that's the direction of growth. Right. Because there's no growth to be made if you're just staying comfortable, right? Staying comfortable can be equivalent to staying at home, right? You're never gonna meet your spouse. You're never going to learn new things if you don't get out.
That's true.
So I think that anytime you feel discomfort, know that you're on the right path is gonna be the best I can give.
No, that's awesome. I'm sure a lot of people need to hear that. So let's talk maybe last few questions. Something other than the gym. I know you also like preach getting good sleep for general health, and you know, and what are some other things other than exercise that are just like inevitable or super important for your overall health, for whether that be physical or mental?
The first thing that came to my mind was just getting outside. Being outdoors is probably a huge one for mentality, just because so what's interesting about that is when you're outdoors, you become more grounded and you learn to be more present because the trees, the mountains, the oceans, they're all present. They're all just dealing with what's going on right now. And they're not thinking ahead and they're not dwelling in the past. So I think it's really important for people to just go outside, be in nature, maybe even like be barefoot in nature. It just helps to get a little bit more grounded and present, because when we're here, like, for example, if you're on your phone or if you're on your computer, on your downtime, like with technology especially, there will be something that pops up that will trigger like a past memory, or something pops up that'll be like, oh snap, I got to do this for tomorrow. You know what I mean? So it bounces you back and forth from the future to the past, and it's hard to stay present. So I think even if you're just like, I don't know, have the mountain channel on your TV, like some kind of landscape, I don't know, just looking at nature. Because I know for me, this quarantine has been hard, and obviously we can't go anywhere, but every time I look out the window, like it's a little bit different, you know. You're like, oh, okay, the world exists out there. You know what I mean?
It is
stressful. So I think that's a huge one, especially before Japan. I actually lived in San Diego, so I was surrounded by nature. So for me, that is the biggest thing that I think played a role in my mentality coming here, is just that loss of immediate nature. I know it's accessible here, but it's not as easy to get to as in San Diego. So,
so just even like getting out of your house and just go for a quick walk.
Sunlight, getting sunlight, getting natural light on your that actually goes into your sleep. So when you expose yourself to daylight during the day, and I say this because there will be some people that stay in their house all day with their windows closed. So if you expose yourself to the sun during the day, you'll have better sleep at night, because then you improve your circadian rhythm. Right. So if you're in the dark all day, right, it's kind of hard to prepare for sleep when you should sleep. So everything is connected.
Yeah, it is, right? Okay, so maybe last question, because we are coming short of time. I know that like we talked about starting and trying to get into the gym, and you know, maybe for those who have started training and maybe finds it hard to find motivation, because you know it's really hard to be motivated on things that are super hard, and maybe you don't you know, fully interpret the benefits of doing what you're doing. Or it could be like going into the gym, or it could be doing anything like that is challenging. It's hard to be motivated for something that you don't, you know, 100% understand the benefits of. Like, maybe there is like a cue in your head, or something that you tell yourself, maybe your diet's not going right, or you're losing motivation to go to the gym. Is there something that you could, maybe there's an advice that you can give for those people struggling?
Yes. So I would say, think about why. Think about why you want it. Like, really think about why. Not just like, oh, I want to look like this. Like, I always tell my students, like, think hard about why. Like, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Or where do you want to be? Like, imagine yourself at your optimal fitness, optimal health. How do you feel? And then compare that with how do you feel right now, right? Do you want to look more fit? Do you want to feel more healthy? Do you want to have a clearer mindset, right? And then also, like, why do you want to have that? Do you want to live longer and be with your spouse a little bit longer? Or do you want to be able to do activities with your children? Or because a lot of people, right, especially those who are overweight, one of their biggest reasons for doing it is because they want to just simply run with their children. And a lot of those who are overweight, you know, will get tired quicker, can't keep up with their children, especially if they're younger. Or maybe something like they can't ride roller coasters with their children because they just can't fit in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like really digging deep to why you're doing it. It has to be, we make purchases off emotion, right? We buy an iPhone because we gotta have it, we're so happy. Or so we make transactions as humans with emotion. So achieving a goal, that's a transaction, because there's something that you have to exchange. You have to sacrifice your time and your labor, right? So in order for that transaction to be successful, you have to have an emotional component to it. There has to be some kind of emotional why you're doing it, or else it's not going to happen. Because if you just say, okay, I want to look like this, most likely it's not going to happen, right? Because I know all of us here want abs, but who really has them, right? So who really has that who really has that emotional attachment to it? And sometimes even though we want something, sometimes it's not a priority. Like, sure, I want a freaking iPad Pro, I want to go ham and like create, but like that's not a priority for me right now, so I'm not going to go get it. Right? The things that we truly really want in life, we'll find a way to go get it. And that has a lot to do with emotion. And I think it's just trying to figure out like why you want something. So for me, and you'll notice, like, look at really successful athletes, right? They are so driven, right? And a lot of it is from upbringing. Like, it's just something that they've held constant all their life, like their emotional why. So I think it goes back to like figuring out why you want to do something, because if you don't have a good enough reason, you're not going to do it. Because when you have a secure why, all the sacrifices are going to be worth it. Right. So I think that's
sorry, might be a little bit off topic. It's just like, I just find it so amazing that people who are obese end up losing a lot of weight, because a lot of, maybe they really do want to lose weight, but everything is telling them that they can't do it. Like exercising is hard. Maybe if I go to the gym, people look at me weird and stuff like that. And I just think it's so amazing that people who are obese and end up losing weight, like how strong-willed they are. And that just like blows my mind. Like you just said,
So there's going to be obstacles and there's going to be challenges, like in any goal, right? Even with school, you're a student, I'm sure you understand, right? There's always challenges, whether it's sacrificing your sleep to get an essay done or whatever. But when it comes down to it is, you got to choose your struggles. You got to choose, it's better to choose your obstacles, right? It's kind of like, what do they say? I think that's what they say, like choose your battles, right? Like choose what you're willing to sacrifice for, because if you're not willing to sacrifice for it, it's not going to get done. It goes back to like, if I translate this in the relationship world, it's like you want to pick a partner where you would do anything for, right? You would sacrifice for, you would move to Japan for, right? So it has to be grounded in that. You have to be committed and disciplined with your reason for it. So I think that's a number one. And I know that's like super abstract and probably people will be like, oh, I don't know, like why? Right. But I think when it does click for people, and it's just going to be at their own pace for when they figure that out. But I think the moment that people figure that out, it's going to click, and then it's just going to be up from there, I think.
Yeah. And also I think just even for me, a lot of people will have told me to write the why, like write it down. Because some days I would feel super good, right? And I'll be like, oh, I'm going to do this. I know that I want to do this. Like, I know that this is going to happen and I know I really want it. But then there are times, maybe a few days later, where I don't feel as, I don't feel good. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I lose that drive. So sometimes like writing it down could be a good way to replace why I want to do it.
Yeah, writing it down is super helpful. I know a lot of people have like vision boards, so they like of things that they want. Writing is just a super helpful tool overall, because you get it out of your head and onto paper. And then there's something about writing it down that kind of makes it like a contract. You know what I mean? Like, all right, crap, I wrote it down. So it just adds that extra accountability. And I think there's also another way to do this where you, and you can also utilize your social media, is like say what you're gonna do and announce it to the world, because when you announce it to the world, you can't take it back.
That's true.
and then it kind of pushes you. So if you're the kind of person that thrives off of that kind of accountability, then but if it's gonna be but if it's gonna be self-sabotaging to you, where you're like, oh, like, and then feel sucky about it, then like maybe not. But for some people like me, that really works. So right now, there will be, and I've talked about this like just in my last class on Facebook Live, about some days I'm not feeling it to teach, but I already know that I made the schedule. People know about the class. They're going to come through. People are looking up to me like I got to do it. So there's just like that added accountability there that I think like holds you up to it and then just makes you do it.
Yeah.
or else you're a flaker.
No, that is like perfectly explains the whole sacrifice thing that you did talk about. And just so, I don't know, maybe one, just knowing the why you want to do this, why you really want this. And two, don't be afraid you have to make sacrifices in the things that you want to do. Maybe would that be like a clear understanding of a good summary of?
Yes. Yeah. You have to get uncomfortable. You have to just go for it, I think.
Can you tell the listeners where they can reach you? Maybe your social media or anything. Maybe they want to see your lessons on live. I don't know.
So my social media on Instagram, my fitness account is Kris Lifts Things. And then Facebook would be facebook.com/Kris LeGier. And then where I teach, I post all of my replays on my Facebook page. But if you want to go see me live, you can go on Facebook page MWR Athletics Yokosuka. And that's where I teach live. Currently, for the next 2 weeks, I already know my schedules. My schedule is Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Japan time. And then I'll also be teaching functional mobility, 10:30 a.m. Saturday Japan time.
Awesome. And I know there was a lot of things that we could talk about other than this, but I don't know. Yeah, we do have the time limit. So we're going to just finish off here. Is there anything that, I don't know, maybe you want to mention to the listeners? Or?
I feel like we covered a lot, actually. But like I said, in terms of reaching out to people, for those who are listening and for those who are needing help, you can always reach out to me. I'm super open, and I promise I won't judge you for anything that you bring to me. So just know that you can, because I think that's where a lot of people struggle with reaching out, is they fear being judged with certain things, right? But just know that there is no silly question, and in fact, when you do ask, it shows more courage in you than you think. So go reach out.
Awesome. Thank you so much for making the time today, Kris.
Oh, thank you for having me. This was fun.
Okie dokie, welcome back. I hope you learned something new from this episode, because I definitely did. If you want to follow Kris on some of her work or her posts, then I will be linking some of her social media accounts into the description of this podcast, so make sure you check that out. If you like this episode, make sure you share it with your friends, or I don't know, subscribe or like or follow whatever platform you're listening on. It would help very much. We are also on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, as Barbell Radio. No space, no capitals, just Barbell Radio. Okie dokie, I think that's it for today. Well, stay safe, stay healthy, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Barbell Radio.